Hi guys, it's Shelby from Board Games for Two, and today I wanted to share with you my top 5 thematic board games that Joe and I have in our collection. I'm a pretty casual board gamer when it comes to the hobby, but I always appreciate something super thematic, kind of different, a different kind of board game, different mechanics, really neat components. So all of those things kind of tie in together for me to make a board game thematic, just ultra immersive gameplay. So I just wanted to share with you a few of my favorites. So let's dive right in. So it's always hard to have a top 5 or even sometimes a top 10 list. So of course I've got a couple honorable mentions to be included. So my first honorable mention we'll go over is Frostpunk the board game. It is a newer game in our collection, and it is a tabletop adaptation of the super popular PC game Frostpunk. And it's set in kind of a post-apocalyptic, ultra-cold, snowy landscape where players are working together. It's a cooperative board game, working together to just, in general, just survive in this terrible, icy, frozen land. You're creating your society. You're trying to stay warm, doing all these kinds of things just to make it to and through the cold winter. It's just super, super neat, different. There's a huge, the big thing for me is there's a giant generator. You know, it's like a plastic kind of miniature generator that'll sit in the middle of the board, and you put little coal cubes in it. And it's just part of the game that's so fun is, or not fun, just depending on how it goes, is pulling out the door to see how much coal is in the generator. And it's so stressful, but it's just so different. And it just really, it's the whole entire point of the game is this generator. So it's just stressful opening up that drawer, seeing what you have, and you just feel like you're really in the game. You're establishing a society, you're creating laws, you're feeding your people, different policies. It's just very immersive. The gameplay is really immersive, very unique. So that's why it's one of my honorable mentions. Now, my second honorable mention is Dice Hospital. I'm actually an ICU nurse, so the theme really hits home for me. I was kind of afraid that a hospital theme would just really kind of fall flat for me. I would be too judgmental over it. But Dice Hospital is really fun. You just can't take the game serious, and that's kind of the whole thing behind it. The artwork is fun, kind of cartoony, so if you want a more serious healthcare game, don't go for this one, but you just kind of have to take it for what it is. So the gameplay's fun. It's kind of neat because it'll play in the dice are your patients, and the sicker they are, the lower the number they are on the dice, and the more turns that you don't heal them, you don't fix them, they get lower and lower, and it gets more stressful. And there's all kinds of different components in the game as well that just really made me laugh. They've got blood bags and toe tags, and even like the scoring board that you play with is a little cardiac monitor machine that you keep track of your points with, which I just thought was a really funny, neat little addition. My favorite thing, and arguably one of my favorite components in board games that we have, are cards that are little pagers in Dice Hospital, and it makes me laugh. It's perfect for the theme of a hospital game, kind of a silly hospital game. So highly recommend that one if you're in the healthcare field and you want to play a game that's not ultra serious. It's pretty funny. Now that we're done with the honorable mentions, we'll get into my actual top 5 list. And my number 5 game for the most thematic games that we have in our collection was actually my number 1 game of 2023, and that is Forest Shuffle. And Forest Shuffle is actually a card game. It's a nature-themed game, which is nowadays it's 1 in a million of nature-themed games. But this one is so unique in that the way that you play cards, you actually kind of reflect the nature itself. So say you play a tree card, your mushroom cards can only go at the bottom of the tree. The bird cards that you play can only go at the top in the leaves. There's a bear that can be placed in a cave, and all these kind of just unique little mechanics that make it a different kind of nature game that I really appreciate. So that's my number 5. My number 4 game on the list is Obsession. Now, Obsession, we kind of thought was going to be a flop when we purchased it. It's kind of, think of it as a Pride and Prejudice in a board game. You are trying to find love in Victorian England. And it's so different in terms of being able to turn that theme into a board game, but it just works. It's so neat that you can play as a variety of different prominent, wealthy families. You've got all kinds of different little meeples that have different roles, kind of the handmaidens that you have to play with your ladies in waiting, and your footmen that you have to play with the gentlemen, and just kind of things like that. And the rounds are based on the promenade of you courting your, future husband or future wife. We really enjoyed it. It's neat. It's different. It's a different theme that you just don't see. So that's why that one is my number 4. My number 3 thematic board game in our collection is Woodcraft. Now, in Woodcraft, you are a little shop owner, you own a wood shop, and you are earning commissions, you're building different items out of wood and selling them to earn the most blueberries and the most acorns, the most victory points. And hopefully beat out your fellow wood shop competitors. It's a really neat game thematically, just because the mechanics work so well to tie into what it means to be, what I would think it would mean to be a owner of a wood shop and be growing trees. You grow trees and increase your dice. You can chop the trees and split dice and change different numbers, the faces, based on your needs. But all of the different actions that you can do in that game just fit super thematically, whether, like I said, it's growing or chopping or selling or however it may be. But it's super interesting, really kind of different, very thinky. And yeah, I really liked how the mechanics, specifically in Woodcraft, how the mechanics really played into the woodshop theme. So Woodcraft, my number 3. My number 2 thematic board game in our collection is The Wolves. The Wolves, I was super hesitant at first because it is an area control game, and a lot of times area control at 2 players is just hard. It's just difficult to get right at that player count, and it's just not exactly super fun. But at 2 players, The Wolves has an AI that works pretty well, still makes it fun, makes it a little challenging. You've kind of got a third little computer player to compete with the both of us in terms of the area control part. But that part of it aside, the theme is great. You are a pack of wolves, essentially, or you are a lone wolf trying to create a pack of wolves, and you are building up your den. You're recruiting lone wolves into your pack. You can howl and you get certain bonuses from doing that. You can hunt prey, and but the only way to hunt the prey is if you're surrounding them on different sides. It's super thematic. It's just how I would think of a game that's themed, is based off wolves, exactly how it would be. The round, one of my favorite things is the round marker is actually like a moon cycle. So I just love that. It's different, it's unique. It's just super neat. And I really appreciated the different components and just how the mechanics tie into the actual gameplay. And again, as I mentioned, it's area control, but with 2 players, it works great. And I don't see that one leaving our collection anytime soon. So number 2, The Wolves. Now we've made it to the top of the list, and my number 1 most thematic board game that we have in our collection is Hegemony. Joe backed this game on Kickstarter a while ago, and when it came in, I'm looking at the box and it already looks super dramatic. You've got a picture of the White House. I knew it was going to be politics, and I was pretty hesitant to play just because games like that just look intimidating. I knew it was going to be complicated. I didn't know what I was in for fully. But once we got to playing, once Joe learned the rules, he was able to teach me. I've always played as the working class. I always try to play as the underdog. So I always have a good time with that. My goal is to just stick it to the man. And when you play as the working class in Hegemony, that is ultimately what you're trying to do. You're trying to give the power to the people. You're trying to do kind of all of these different social reforms, social policies, just trying to create fair work environments for all of the employees that are being employed by the middle class, the upper class, the capitalists. You know, you've got the state that you can play as well. But in a 2-player game, Joe and I play, I'm the working class and he's the capitalist. But yeah, so Hegemony is just, it's so immersive. It's so thematic. Just all of the different mechanics that play into the theme are just a ton of fun. I will never forget our very first playthrough. I had a last turn victory as the working class. Joe's frantically, you know, shoveling money, shoveling his profits into an offshore account while my people go on strike. And it was just such a fitting end to the game. It was hilarious, but the game is just done super well. If you can get your hands on Hegemony, highly, highly recommend. It's just our favorite thematic board game that we have in our collection. Well, thanks so much for watching my top 5 most thematic board games that we have in our collection, plus a couple honorable mentions. Please drop a comment below. I would love to hear what your opinions are, if you agree with some of these games, if you disagree, if you think there's something that I missed. I love a good thematic board game, so if there's one not mentioned, please let me know. I would love to maybe play it sometime. So thanks so much for watching, and until next time.